I couldn't accept failure as an option. And I figured out not just one, but 3 new processes that we were going to implement immediately. Robert took and ran with the first one of finding good, solid co-sponsors that really could overcome our weaknesses. And really our secret sauce has been just the strategy behind how we source our deals now. And a lot of that has to do with relationships. We don't look at on-market deals anymore. There's the trick. I don't look at an on-market deal because if it's on market to me, it's on market to everyone. So I'm not just competing with, people that I know. I'm competing with the 99% of the teams that I don't as well. I'm competing with institutions that have, 10 to 20 to $100 million to be able to just buy whatever they need.
You're listening to the Guerrilla State Investing Podcast. We're not here to bruise your bananas with guru sales pitches, overrated fluff, or any other kind of monkey business. We simply provide the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate.
All right, today's guest is Wesley Yates and Robert Newburn of Veterans and First Responders Investment Group, Capital Investments out of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Wesley is a Marine Corps veteran. He's mentored over 2,000 individuals in leadership and development. He's got his bachelor's degree in finance from UT Tyler and currently has 119 units and assets under management as the director of operations for VFR. Robert's a 20-year law enforcement officer, still active in the force. He's also the chief financial officer for Veterans and First Responders. Robert's a limited partner on 225 units in syndications, and as well as the general partner on 157 units. Also, Robert has participated in joint ventures for 34 units and has had up to 23 single-family units under his name. And his wife, Jana, is also the asset manager for Veterans and First Responders. Guys, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Hey, thanks, Randy.
Yeah, so why don't you guys kind of walk me through what it is you got going on today and how this is actually my first podcast where I've got 2 people on it. So forgive me if I kind of don't know who to talk to or how to manage this, but I want you guys to go ahead and kind of take the wheel and tell me how you guys got started and how you met and where you're at today.
Yeah. So where we got started, actually starts way before VFR was ever even a thought. I was actually walking out of a wholesaling academy company, got invited into syndication, and was tasked to being an investor relations. So out there meeting investors. Robert was going from selling off his residential portfolio and reinvesting it into multifamily. Him and I connected through Facebook, and it was probably another 3 months after we even connected before we actually met. Even though both of us are right here in Dallas, Fort Worth area, we didn't meet in person until it was an event in Denver, Colorado. Fast forward all the craziness, 2 years, and I was actually moving closer to where he lives now, and we reconnected, had lunch, started sharing some ideas, and we started putting together the groundwork for VFR Capital Investments and what we really wanted to be unique about that company and which is now evolved to what it is today.
Awesome. So Robert, you had 23 single family units and were selling them all off to get into multifamily, correct? And
that's right.
It sounds like you were investing as limited partnership and probably wanted to get in on the general partnership side, the operations side of things. So what was the mindset shift that got you out of single family, wanting to go into multifamily?
It's very difficult to scale in single family. Now, single family, you can learn a lot of lessons from, and I always recommend that anyone that's going to get into real estate, it's always a good idea. It's not a bad idea to start with single family, but it's incredibly difficult to manage single family houses. I found I didn't like it. I didn't like and we self-managed the majority of ours. There was a few of them that we didn't down in Tarrant County, but for the most part, we self-managed. And I like the aspect of passive investing. I like the idea of investing and allowing someone else to take the reins on on the management of the property. But on the other hand, I really did want to get into syndication, and I wanted to put some of my experience, my wife's experience from, operating single family on the multifamily side, because a lot of those skills are transferable. It's managing units, managing tenants, and managing the operation through the property manager. There's a lot of overlap there. So I like the idea of the scalability of multifamily. I like, but on the passive side, I like the idea of somebody else doing all the work.
And that's pretty much, as a limited partner, exactly what you get, right? You
That's exactly
partner
right.
up with a team like you guys, and you kind of just get to sit back and watch the masters at work while you collect the check, right? So
yeah, and the passive investing is the best deal going. It really is. I mean, it is. You find somebody you trust, of course, but then when you can find that operator you can trust and you invest in their deals, man, it's just sit back and collect that mailbox money.
yeah. Wesley, what made you want to get right into multifamily? I mean, did you have like an insider's look as to how to do this, or what was the route that you decided to take?
No, I had no clue what syndicating was. When someone approached me and they just kind of had seen me at a few networking events and said, "We really like your character. We really like your tenacity. We'd like you to be on our team, as a syndicator." I said, "Do I need a license to do that?" They started laughing at me. So I had no clue what I was doing. I was already on a team at an event before I even really knew what was going on. I just saw an opportunity. I knew I wanted more than what I had. I'd been, researching a lot about real estate, and someone just kind of said, "All right, do you want to buy 100 separate problems, or do you want to have 100 problems under one roof?" And I was like, that actually makes a lot more sense. So it was really, to me, it was the economies of scale, and it was really that right there. So I looked at it, I was like, well, that makes more sense to me. I can hit more with one load. And they're like, it's going to be a problem no matter what you own and how you own it. It's just how many of those are under the same roof. And then also it was really just the fact of being able to leverage, investors' money, other people's money to really work effectively. But I guess that all that aside, scalability, all that, it came down to really the atmosphere. On single family, it was cutthroat. I mean, everyone's like friends, but no, everybody's competing against anyone. They'll stab you in the back, say anything about you just to get a deal over you. You look at syndication, you look at commercial, it was more of the mature. It was the team, the camaraderie. People truly were willing to just answer every question, whether I thought it was a dumb one or not. I felt like I was getting more from someone worth $100 million than someone worth $100,000 trying to fight for that next deal. So that's really what it was for me. It was that atmosphere. And I came from the Marine Corps as a background where teamwork was a crucial aspect of that. And I think that was something that I was still seeking within, that next career path I went down.
What about competition within the space? Do you think that the single family world is more competitive just because the cost of entry is so low? I
do. Yeah, I think that's exactly the case, especially here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Just the simple fact that there's so many wholesalers and investors and a dozen very large wholesaling companies that are right here in DFW and Austin and San Antonio. That's exactly the case.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so
I agree with that 100%. I mean, not saying that it can't be done, not saying that, if you're looking at it, that you shouldn't. I mean, I think we both still have, we both still dabble in the single family market, but our main focus now is really syndicating into the multifamily world.
You got to get real lucky nowadays to find a single family house. I mean, there's dozens of companies that send the mailers out, and I get them all the time at my house. I mean, over my mother-in-law doesn't live too far from me. We were over there checking her mail one time. She had 7 cards in her mailbox for different companies wanting to buy her house. It's extremely competitive.
Okay. So is there anybody, or are there teams that wholesale at a large scale with multifamily, like syndications, like 100-unit plus apartment complexes?
That's it, like try to wholesale multifamilies, like apartments.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. Early on, I was getting hit up a lot with wholesalers, trying to wholesale an apartment. I've never found one that really was worth anything. Since October last year, we've underwrote over $6.5 billion worth of real estate. And a lot of, some of those were wholesales, some of those were, on market deal, but we never, not today, have offered on one that came from a wholesaler.
I've seen offers come in through my email. I'm on a dozen wholesaling lists, and I've seen multifamily offerings come in through, from single family wholesalers. And the funny thing about it is that they don't know how to value the property. They'll just put it out there and put a random number on it, almost thinking that somebody's going to buy it. But I'm sure as time goes on, it's probably going to catch on a little more too, but I have seen that.
Well, it seems to me like at the 100+ unit size apartment complex, you're not dealing with a lot of mom and pa owners. Like you're dealing with expert teams who are not going to pay attention to a wholesaler. They're not going to, even give them the time of day, because they understand that when it should sell, how it should sell, and who they should sell it to. And they have a network of people to sell it to, or at least they know what broker in town is going to give them the biggest bang for their buck. I've not seen a good deal at 100+ units from a wholesaler at all. I know in the single family space, whenever you have people wholesaling, like they're dealing with people who are in a bit more of desperate needs, or they have properties that stumbled upon, or they inherited a lot more often, and wholesalers seem to be a lot more successful in that. But if somebody was wanting to get into wholesaling and say, why wouldn't I just do 100+ units? To me, it seems like a very difficult space, because you're dealing with a no kidding professional team every single time.
Right.
Well, okay, cool. So where are you guys going from here? Because you just closed on with our team, in fact, the 119 unit deal out in Lubbock, Texas. I know that Wesley, pretty excited because you guys got a lot of deal flow coming in. If you wouldn't mind telling us, like, how are you vetting these deals? How are you finding them? Like, what's your secret sauce, and where is your team going from here as far as what deals you're going after, the locations, and why?
So a lot of questions rolled into that at once. I'll break it down. So real quick, what's next for us? We've already got our next property under contract right here in DFW. It's in Dallas, Texas. We're excited about that. That's going to be a very heavy lift. We're looking at having hopefully our third property under management that's even bigger than that. I'd say the next 2 weeks. We could have that one under contract. So that's really what we're doing. We learned a lot through our failures. I guess I can go back and say that. So what's brought us to the point of how are we doing our first deal, 2 weeks ago, and now we're already got two under contract and 3 lined up right here after it. Like I said earlier, we underwrote about $6.5 billion worth of real estate. We learned a lot from that. And a lot of that was scaling up our team, really training the team. When we put this together very early on, it was kind of based off of my idea and bouncing a lot of those off of Robert and his wife on what are some things that they, feel like, yeah, that would work. What are some things that they wouldn't feel that would work? I'd also bounced it off quite a few other successful syndicators and found what we wanted to do. And so we found our, a few underwriters, a few people that wanted to, learn this and, didn't necessarily have the money to go and pay someone, $35,000 for their awesome course, but they had the tenacity, they had the credibility of the character. That's what we built our company off of, was the people first, the team first. Because if we had the good ethics and we had strong morals, that we were all going to be successful because we could trust each other. So we wanted to build it off of our ethos and of the integrity. Product knowledge can be learned. Character is something that, we really feel like you have it or you don't. So that's really something that we spent a lot of those time over that. But it was actually right before we met your team that we probably made the biggest change, and dang near almost started all over. We had the code. We were getting ready to close it. We reached out to your team after we thought we weren't going to. We had a member, a partner that was just supposed to raise the capital. They didn't. They had no ability. They ended up not even being able to raise a dime for the deal. And we were like, we got a problem here. So I scratched my head and I went to bed that night with a notepad, and I had to make a decision up first thing. Do I want to do this, or am I just going to let us fail and lose this deal? And I don't know, the Marine in me, the man in me, whatever, I couldn't accept failure as an option. And I figured out not just one, but 3 new processes that we were going to implement immediately. Robert took and ran with the first one of finding good, solid co-sponsors that really could overcome our weaknesses. And that's where we met your guys' team. And we've been so thankful to have, stumbled upon y'all or whatever. But, really our secret sauce has been just the strategy behind how we source our deals now. And a lot of that has to do with relationships. We don't look at on-market deals anymore. There's the trick. I don't look at an on-market deal, because if it's on market to me, it's on market to everyone. So I'm not just competing with, people that I know. I'm competing with the 99% of the teams that I don't as well. I'm competing with institutions that have, 10 to 20 to $100 million to be able to just buy whatever they need. So that was really probably the biggest piece is what we put into our pipeline and what we even spent our time on. Because there's 5 of us at VFR Capital Investments, and I'm the only one that's really full-time into this. Everybody else has a day job. Robert's still out there, pulling people over, giving tickets. But no, really, he's been a great police officer. I'm not taking anything. That's just a joke I give him. But, a lot of us are all veterans and first responders, and we still have day jobs, or they're still currently serving as a, firefighter, police officer. And, they've got that. So we're doing this in a part-time basis for a majority of our team. So we've got to get the greatest return on our time. So I hope I answered as much of those questions as.
Yeah, well, Wesley's being very modest. Wesley is very good at building out systems and processes. Wesley can build out a system or process on just about anything. And he has designed our team and our company to be very lean and very fast and very efficient. And because, 4 out of 5 of us do work full-time jobs, it has to be that way. But when, I know that on my off time that I know what I need to do because of the system that is in place, it pretty well tells me what I need to do. We get everything done. But this is a testament to Wesley and his ability to build that out.
Well, Robert, it's so random how we met too, because literally a Facebook post. Hey, look,
right.
Like it's amazing who's out there that's looking to solve a problem that you might have, and who's out there that has a problem or that has something that you need. Right. Yeah. And literally I was just strumming through on the phone and saw that post. It was, for those of you listening, Robert put out a post. We're looking for co-sponsors or
right.
co-GPs. We're looking for co-GPs on a deal in Texas.
Yes.
So hit me up, drop my email in there. Next day we had a meeting. We had never met in person, but we had a meeting on Zoom. And then we said, okay, let's call the teams together. The next day, my team, Real Focus, his team, veterans and first responders, are all on the phone. and we're stepping out. So it does not have to be, you just got to ask the right questions, right? Hey, we're looking for somebody who can provide this. And here we are on this podcast, and now here we are looking for the next deal. So
yeah, absolutely.
I always believe your network is your net worth. And Robert, I want you to kind of talk about like, what was that process? What was, whenever you put that post out, what were you expecting, and how did, like, you guys are obviously taking a risk on, hey, internet, we're looking for people.
Right.
We all know there's crappy people on the internet.
Yeah. And as a company, we decided a long time ago that when we do business with somebody, that there's 5 votes on our team. And if anybody on our team votes nay, then we don't do business with that person. So when we interviewed you on you and your team, if one person would have said, nope, I've got a bad feeling about it, then we wouldn't have been doing it. But, we knew from talking to you and talking to, everyone on your team that there was alignment there, that we had similar values. You're in the military. That goes a long way. We don't do business with just anybody. And yeah, you do take a risk putting a message out like that on Facebook, but you got to follow it up with some due diligence and really making sure that who you're dealing with is who they say they are. And
that was a lesson learned from making a mistake.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, that's probably been a big lesson learned, is vet out who says they are, who says, who that's coming from.
Right.
So really, and that's something that Robert and I learned very, very early on, is we've just taken people at their word, and it's cost us some stuff. So,
and you want to believe that most people are good, and most people are good people. And I'm saying that as a police officer, believe it or not, most people are good, but you still have to, a good person can still be incompetent.
Yeah.
A good person can still be lazy. You've got to ask the right questions and really vet the person out that you're that you're thinking about doing business with. Multifamily investing is a lot different than single family, and that most syndications are 100% built on teams. Our team joins up with your team. Most everyone does it like that, but you have to do your research and you have to do your due diligence. And we did, and we're very grateful that y'all passed the test.
Well, I appreciate that. And Wesley, you said something that stuck with me the other day on our phone conversation. You said, figure out what your strength is and exploit it. And I noticed that, like, you guys, y'all don't even focus on raising capital at all. You focus on deal flow. And here it is, you got very good deal flow. But how does that, I think every syndication team that's getting started out, right, goes through a period of spinning their wheels and not knowing which direction to go until they find somebody that they, like a sponsor or somebody who has a deal, and they join that team with them. But with you guys, when y'all first got put together, you said you underwrote $6.8 billion in assets until you actually got one under contract and executed it. So what was that period of time for you guys? Like, how long did it take for you guys to actually close on your first deal, and walk me through that?
Yeah. So we started officially, our official start day was October of last year, 2020. And that was very early on. We had quite a few extra people there that were still trying to see if this was going to be a good fit for them or not. And we just hit the ground running. And that's one thing that I've been told by a lot of people: you move so fast. When you do something, you move so fast, you should slow down and let people catch up. I said, no, they need to figure out how to catch up to me if they're going to be a part of what I'm doing. So it's as good as me or better. That's always been my leadership, mentality there. Like, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to put all my time, all my energy, all my knowledge into someone that I'm mentoring. But I always tell them their mark is as good as me or better. So the first 5 months, it was learning as we go. Half of it we had never done before. The other half, we were just kind of figuring it out from somebody else's guidance, just from, this podcast, this network, this book, and just going. And we got the first property under contract. And then it was a good 2 months into the deal, and we're ready to close. We're going through, we've already done our due diligence, already done our finance, already got the lenders ready to rock and roll. We're ready to close. Look over to the capital raiser. No money's there. Well, what? And if any of y'all know this or have figured out a way to do it without, but I, to this day, have not been able to figure out how to close on a deal without any money. So if you figure that out, please let me know, because that's a good one. But that's when we had to jump over that. It took us a full 90 days to close on our first deal. But my goal is I want to learn, as we were going through that closing process, how can we streamline this for the next one? And my goal was to have the second property under contract before we closed the first one. And I did that the week of. We closed on Friday of that week, as you know. Yeah. And we had that one under contract like late Wednesday afternoon. So the same week. So it was like Wednesday, we got the second property under contract. Friday, we closed the first one. But there was just a lot. One thing that we did through the entire time was we took notes on all of our failures. We took notes on all the things that we felt we did right. And we pivoted a great deal even during that. And I think that's crucial to any team, is nothing's going to hit you like life. And as old Mike Tyson said it best, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. Well, one thing I can say with this team right here compared to some of my teams in the past is when we got hit, we kept swinging, but we came back harder than we did the first time. Everybody, I mean, we partnered with a very successful syndicator in this industry with Elevate. He's admitted he didn't think that deal was closing. It was because of our tenacity, and we wanted to make it happen. And we reached out and found some great teams that could overcome those weaknesses to get us through that finish line and across that finish line. So that was a big part, is take the punches, get knocked down, because it's going to happen. If anyone tells you just try not to get knocked down, try not to hit a roadblock. How? I don't know one successful person in anything that I've gone in, that I have experience in, that has just not faced any failure. It's what you do when you face that failure that is going to determine your outcome.
And it's kind of the mindset that keeps me going, because I've always been told by my dad, is like, you never know how close you are to success the moment that you quit. You don't know. It might have been the very next step that would have got you the breakthrough. And like you guys said, if Elevate and George Abreu's over there looking at it like, this deal is not going to close. A lot of people, that was, well, crap, he's seen it 100 times. Like, what are we doing? We're wasting our time. But I think, like you said, the Marine or the military, you say, oh, this is a challenge, dude. We deal with this every day. And I can tell, like, Robert, just from the things you're saying, like, Wesley's got efficient processes and procedures, the don't quit attitude, all this stuff. This is military 101. Like, the military is the United States' largest employer, right? The Department of Defense. And if you think that if they don't have the processes down to efficiently, not effectively, I don't know if efficient would be the appropriate word, but efficiently take somebody off the street and turn them into a trained killer within about 5-6 months. I mean, they're processes and procedures is what the military does. And I can see that a lot of that with our team, me and Joey, like we bring on some, stuff from the military that we learned that we didn't think had any segue into the private sector. Oh, it's got a huge segue. It's got a huge segue into it. So that's awesome, man. So Robert, what you and your wife are kind of like a power couple on these things. Why don't you tell us what it is that you guys are up to next, and how do you work that out at the house? Like, that's got to be pretty interesting.
Well, my wife and I both put everything we have, from our spare time into VFR. Used to, you could ask me, what you have a house in your pipeline you're working on, or do you know, what's your latest deal you're working on? Well, my deal is VFR, you know, our next project. Conversations around our house. I mean, you know, we try to keep it separated, but there is a lot of talk about acquisition, our latest acquisition, you know, asset management meeting. My wife, you know, it's, what is it, 10 till 4. She's got an asset management meeting in 10 minutes. You know, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, real estate is talked in our house. We are a real estate family. And so, you know, we just live that lifestyle, you know, but we each know what the other one is doing and what the other one needs to be successful. And, you know, she knows, you know, kind of what I need to be happy and what I'm doing with VFR and to be challenged. And so, yeah, we are a good couple, you know, and it comes down to this, you know, Wesley and I have talked about this before, and definitely me and Jana. Both Jana and I have been married twice. This is my second marriage. It's Jana's second marriage. And you have to have a spouse that's on board with investing in real estate, and that's the most important thing. Because if your spouse isn't on board, it's not going to work. When you're talking about signing on a loan for $10 million or putting up, you know, we put up EMD on a property last week. Well, EMD on a commercial property, you're talking, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, those are decisions that you've got to have a spouse that's on board with the vision and who can see, you know, who knows where this thing is going. And I'm blessed and fortunate to have that with Jana. And that's very important. That's a very important piece to starting in real estate investing.
Was she into real estate before you guys met?
Yes, she was. Jana's been a commercial real estate appraiser for 20 years. Jana's got a bachelor's degree in real estate finance from the University of North Texas. When I met Jana, she was investing in land development. So she had some land on the north side of Denton that she had bought, and kind of a speculative deal. But she's been in it a long time, and she totally agrees with me. You've got to have a spouse that you know, that goes along with it. It's on board for the ride.
Yeah. Anyone in the military knows that's just the same. I mean, it's a lot of close comparison, because you could be home one day at 4:30. You could be at home one day at 04:30. Yeah. You don't know. And you've got to really vet out that spouse and know, because that is your partner in life. And if you're going to go down an unguaranteed, that's the best word I can use for it, in chasing a dream, as far as whatever industry that is, as far as being your own boss, being you're an entrepreneur, it's a risk. And you've got to have someone that's, you know, willing to support that, because it's going to have high times and it's going to have low times. And you've got to show up with just as much enthusiasm during both. So.
Yeah, just like in the military, I mean, we see the certificates all the time, where the certificates of appreciation for the spouse, because they're just as much in the military as the service member is. And it's kind of like you said, that's a funny term you said, Robert, we are a real estate family. And I think, you know, a lot of my family as well, whenever me and my wife were first getting started out, it was a lot of convincing going on because we were just young. I started real estate investing at like 23, something like that. And when we first started out, I wanted to buy a duplex and live in one side and rent the other side out. And she was not having it. She's like, we have a kid, a dog. Like, I don't want to share a wall with anybody. And eventually was able to compromise and find a place that didn't share a wall, but had real estate that came with the primary mortgage. We used our VA loans. So we didn't have to put anything down. And then once she saw that we were able to make $1,200 a month versus what we were doing before, living in a single family and saving, really just depriving ourselves of all of our entertainment and our happiness. And I wasn't able to buy expensive liquor anymore. I was, what is this crap? And we bought a house hack that now paid us $1,200 a month just to live. And once she saw that power, like, oh wait, money's involved here. Like, this is money's coming in. Wow. Now she's all on board. So it definitely, if you're out there and your spouse is not on board with real estate, sometimes you just got to show them the power of it and let them, they will trust you. They'll take a chance on it. And once you have that success, it's full buy-in from there. So that's kind of awesome that you guys are both into it together and actually part of the same team with Wesley. So
yeah, and Jana's a very important piece of our company. Jana has the credentials, and she has a lot of real world experience, and she's a great asset manager.
She's also our Oz behind the curtain. She doesn't do the interviewing. She's like, no, I'm good. Thank you. I'll just go back to telling other people what to do and making sure everything's being done right and all the reports are done. And but you go do that.
Perfect. So let's get down to a little bit more to the tactical level on things. So this deal in Lubbock, this 190, because that's the one you can talk about because it's closed now, right? So walk me through how'd you find it? And then what were the next steps? Getting it under contract, doing the due diligence, kind of walk me through that process so people can have some takeaways from it.
Yeah. And it's really no different than any deal. We have a process in place that we follow, that we all know our steps. We find the deal, whether it may be from someone saying, hey, have you looked at this one? A broker reaching out to us reaching out to a broker. And, the first thing we do is we try to gather all the information, and then we take that and we put it into an underwriting. We throw it into a spreadsheet and really let that tell us, is there a deal here? Which there was. We'd already done the research on the market, done the research on the job growth, the unemployment. So it met our marketing, all of our marketing checklist. Then it was time to dive into it, zero in on it and really start. Okay, let's look at some debt quotes. Let's look at, the team. Let's look at everything we would need. Let's go lay eyes on it. So we scheduled the time to go tour it. Now keep in mind, this is before we even submitted an offer. We've done all this. Robert and I went out there. We drove 5 hours to Lubbock, toured the thing, looked at a few of the vacant units, looked at some of the area, really got a feel for it, and said, okay, we know what we need to do as far as updating our CapEx or, renovation budget, figuring out what we're going to need. And then went back to the drawing board, tightened up some of our numbers, submitted an offer, kind of went back and forth on that, ended up getting it under contract. Then the real work starts. We'd already interviewed a property management company, ended up interviewing 3 property management companies, ended up having a broker for our finance that was, finding the debt for us, also come back and agree to sign on the deal, put up the money down or EMD. And we were running with it. So, that's kind of any deal that we do. We start very high level. We look at the market because, you can change things within that unit or that asset. You can't change the market. The market is what the market is. And you've got to look at where the market's going. So we looked at all that, had all of our numbers, built out our business plan, and then pretty much just executed on it. If anyone can if BAMSIS for you military guys, begin the planning, arrange reconnaissance, make reconnaissance, complete the planning, issue the orders, and supervise. That's exactly what we did.
My question for you, Wesley, with all of real estate's constantly moving around with all of the opportunities out there. You can't do that on every single one of these deals, right? Because you would just be spending there's not enough time in the day to go out, drive 5 hours to each individual deal and do a day or two of due diligence and meet all these teams on it. So I'm guessing you have a filtration process, right? Like it comes in, you either like the market. Do you look at the market or the deal first? Which one are you going after?
Market first, then deal.
Okay. So that's how you narrow your criteria down to, okay, I'm only interested in these markets, right?
And it could be even in a submarket. I mean, Lubbock, if it was on the east side of town, I wouldn't have bought it. I mean, it goes down to that. I mean, there's some spots in Houston where this block is good, but that block is bad. The next block over is even better.
Yeah.
You just got to know that. You got to know your market. You got to do your research. Robert can speak on this. We've gone and toured properties and seen a police officer parked in a parking lot nearby, gone up. He'll show him the badge and say, hey, what can you tell me about this property right over here?
That's brilliant.
You can call ahead and do that too. I mean, use your resources. Like you said earlier, know your strengths and really utilize those, capitalize on that. But if it passes our underwriting, we're doing that. And if it's out of state, we're calling somebody that we know that can be our boots on the ground, that we trust, that'll go by there, do our inspection. We have a checklist of all the questions that we need answered, and continue before we continue on with making an offer or not.
That's brilliant what you said about the police officer. I have a friend out in Virginia who basically rented out the single family house, and then whenever they went and took it back over, the house was pretty much destroyed. Like destroyed to the level where they had to get the cops involved to come take reports and stuff. It was just like obviously not only delinquent, but like they purposefully destroyed the house. And so whenever the cops showed up, I mean, we're talking about the owner of the house calls the cops, and the cops show up and they go, oh, you're a different person than we normally see. And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, we're here all the time. Yeah. The family that lived here, it was once a week we'd come and do these reports. Like, yeah, this house is trash. It's been getting trashed forever. And it's like, you know what, if you think about it, you might be the owner of that property, but the police officers in the area are going to know more than anybody if it's delinquent or if there's bad stuff happening there. So that's actually a great tip.
And when right after we talked to that officer, that was right before we toured it. We made up our decision right then and there. We're not buying this property.
Wow.
Yeah. No, and that's it really was. Yeah. And they had a lot to say.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that one particular one. Now, this is not the one we closed on. So if any of your investors are watching, this is a different one in Wichita Falls. Yeah. But it's so we kind of almost utilized some of Robert's skills and his background and talking with that as part of our market analysis. Crime is a huge piece of real estate. If you got high crime, no one wants to be a part of that. You're not going to be able to draw the right crowd in there if you got crime all around your apartment. Well, and in your apartment.
And investors are going to ask about that. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to know. That's going to be one of the first questions that get asked is what's the crime rate in the, around the apartment and within the apartment. So, you're not doing yourself any favors, by you got to use your all the resources you have and answer those questions.
Yeah, and we have when we're doing our market due diligence, let's say, we have the 5, what I call the 5 market vital signs, and the 4th one is crime rate. Yeah. Because if a neighborhood has high crime, that's a telltale sign of delinquency, and delinquency creates desperation. Desperation makes it where people don't pay their rent. They have crime. Right. To me, it's a sign that neighborhood or that market is not appropriately allocating their funds to law enforcement, to education, to turn around the talent pool in that area to attract larger investors or like bigger businesses that would come in and recruit that talent. Whereas if you have low crime rate, it's typically in neighborhoods that have higher education. They have, a lot less crime because there's a presence of law enforcement. People aren't as desperate in that area because they're making more money. So they're not pushed to create crimes out of desperation. So crime rate, if you're looking at a place that has a high crime rate, it's not going, do you guys go on city data and look at it? What the crime rate?
Look at quite a few. City data, Market Nomad, bestplaces.net is another one. But here's a little quick tip. If you really don't know how to read your data, look at what's near it. Look at what industries are near it. I mean, because you think that Starbucks doesn't look at the crime rate, doesn't do their little, for property little check and all that they do. So if you see a Starbucks near something, it's going to be a nicer property.
Conversely, if you see a liquor store and a triple X movie video store across the street, that is probably a clue as well.
Payday loans, yeah.
Right.
Payday loans and pawn shops everywhere. Yeah. And that's very true because, I was looking at a couple of different markets, and both markets had the same job growth, right? Or roughly the same trajectory as far as job growth. But one market's median household income was increasing a lot more than the other markets. And I asked myself, well, why is that? Well, you see some markets, the jobs, just because it's got job and population growth doesn't mean that the people are moving there because they make more money. So if you've got a larger industry, say like a car manufacturing company, where that's a lot of lower paying jobs, they obviously have higher paying managerial positions, but it's going to bring in a ton of blue collar jobs, lower end paying jobs. That's not necessarily a telltale sign of market growth, right? That's kind of we need jobs. Let's bring something in. Let's provide some incentives for a manufacturing company, but that doesn't necessarily increase that market's. It kind of maintains the market more than anything. Whereas if you get a lot more corporate jobs, or you get a lot more, managerial positions for a firm that's nationwide, that to me is a telltale sign that has a larger talent pool of higher educated, higher net worth individuals. So those are some of the things that we look at. I know that you guys are looking at them too, but crime you can't dispute it. If it's
right.
High crime rate in a market, it's because there's delinquency in the market. So, well, cool. So let's that'll segue us into the next question that I have, and I asked every guest this, and it's what bruises your bananas in the real estate world? And what I mean by that is, what is the biggest lie being told? I'll let each of you guys kind of go. And Robert, why don't we start with you?
I guess the gurus like to say that this shit's easy. It's not. This is not easy. It's work. And it's very rewarding, but it is work. And so keep that in mind if you want to be a real estate investor, want to get into apartment syndications, there's no fast way of doing it. It's not easy. You gotta put everything you got into it.
But don't, if you give them $30,000 today, discount it if you do it within the next 15 minutes to $10,000, they'll make it a lot easier for you
right now.
But wait, there's more.
Right. Yes.
What about you, Wesley?
Pretty much the same, but honestly, the misleading factor that this is a get rich quick scheme. This is it. You just put in your time and boom, you're going to get results. That is not true. I've been in real estate now for just shy of 2 years, and I've failed way more than I have been successful. But I've also learned from every one of those failures. And I'll say that, just kind of caveating what Robert said, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's a simple step. If you can truly figure out your process, you can find someone that is doing it, not has done it, but is still doing it, is still finding success, is still relevant and current in the industry with today's times. And you can watch what they're doing, pick out their successes, pick out their processes, and then mimic it. It's simple, but it's never going to be easy. I mean, even being able to finally place myself around very successful syndicators, very successful operators, I had to learn a lot of my own lessons. And, they're probably a smarter version of me probably would have quit a long time ago. I guess I'm just dumb enough not to quit. But it really is. It's not going to happen overnight, and you're not going to make $1 million your first year. But if you do, I'm not saying you can't. But just don't go into this thinking that you're not going to fail, no matter how much money you spend on a guru. But my guru is the best one. But my mentor is the best one. There's no better mentor than learning from a failure. because that's truly going to really set you up for tomorrow's success, is how you deal with today's failure. And that's something that I really credit a lot with. As I say, I spent 2 years to find my first win. It's that 5-year overnight success story. A lot of people are going to have that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from there.
One of my mentors in the Navy, calling my sea daddy, is one of the terms that we use, the nautical terms. But he used to say, the difference between a mistake and a failure is a failure is something you didn't learn anything from. And mistakes are acceptable, or mistakes are expected but not accepted. And I used to love that saying, because it kind of gave you, it gave you the ability to go out and take risks, so long as what you got in return from that risk was either a success or a learning point. So to me, a failure is you quit. You failed, and then you just stopped. But if you made a mistake, that means that you failed, but you learn from it and you keep going. You don't make the same mistake again. So those words to live by from the old sea daddy. Yeah,
let the lesson be from that. And I want to encourage, because there's so many people that get stuck in this analysis paralysis. Where do I start? Where do I start? I don't want to start wrong. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to mess up. Forget past that. Just start. Get started, mess up, learn from it, move forward.
100%. And you know this, in the military, we step out on, and I'm sure in the police force too, we step out on a lot of plans that are 80% plans. Is the difference between a good plan and a perfect plan is a good plan actually has a start time. Perfect plan will never get going, right? And if you're waiting to have all of the answers, well, the moment you have the right answers, something's going to change, policy's going to change, a better technique's going to come out. They're just going to sit stagnant, and while other people with good enough plans are going out making deals happen, giving returns on investment to their investors. So 100% with that. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this show up, but before we do, I want each of you to tell me how can people learn more about you? How can they invest with you? How can they get a hold to you? Just kind of give everybody a way to reach back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach me at robert@VFRCapitalInvestments.com. If you're in the military or a first responder, we also have a Facebook group. It's called Veterans and First Responders Real Estate Investing Mastermind. We also have a Facebook page, VFRCapitalInvestments.com, or VFR Capital Investments Facebook page.
Yeah. If you want to get a hold of me, Wesley at VFRCapitalInvestments.com. We're always here to help out. We love giving back. I think that's something that we really pride ourselves on, is if someone comes to us and they ask a straightforward question, we like to take the time to try to answer them, hop on a Zoom call, see what we can do to help and give back, because you never know when that conversation is going to return results, not just for them, but for us as well. We love partnering with, people and great teams, and we pick our teams wisely, but we're always looking for good partnerships, just like how we met Real Focus here, Ramsey and his group. We're really excited. And as Robert said, got the Facebook group out there. Jump in there. That mastermind is free. There is a lot of real estate information, education, active investors, both from land development to RV parks to multifamily. We put a lot of stuff in there where we'll go live from our properties and just walk and talk as what we're doing. So really great information there. And we look forward to hearing from somebody.
Just like every syndicator, right? Always looking for capital partners, always looking for deal partners.
Yeah.
So if you got either of those, reach out to VFR Capital Investments, the Wesley and Robert. Man, I appreciate you guys coming on. And glad to have you. Looking forward to the next deal.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Guerrilla State Investing Podcast, where we give you the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate. Learn more at realfocus.org/Guerrilla State Pod.